Eventually, this huge 8-minute video came together. And while we were listening and kind of watching it, it was very emotional for all of us to see. And we kind of thought, are we too close to this? We questioned whether or not we should show it because we thought, God, it's basically 8 minutes of, how we did this rebrand and how many people really care about that. I think they care about the end result. And so, quarter flip, we decided to show it. And actually, it has been one of our most performing videos, both on YouTube and, just people in the industry that have heard about it, that email us like, hey, can I get a copy of that? Can I get a link to that? I want to show my team or people that were in the audience, hey, I was there. I really want to watch that video again. I want to show this person. So we were really surprised at how much traction the rebrand video got.
This is Social Pulse Podcast. Social media simplified, impact amplified. Each week, we equip social media professionals like you with actionable strategies and diverse insights from peers, experts, and leading platforms. It's all about empowering you to simplify the complex and make a real impact with your host, Mike Alton. And now, the rest of today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast. We're digging into the challenges, successes, and stories of social media community professionals in the industry, just like you. Subscribe to gain valuable insights that you'll be able to apply to your own work and social presence from each and every episode. Now, rebranding a destination is one of the most challenging tasks in hospitality marketing. You're not just changing colors and logos, you're reshaping perceptions, realigning visitor expectations, and potentially disrupting years of established awareness. Many destination marketers struggle to effectively communicate these brand shifts, resulting in confused audiences, wasted resources, and fragmented brand experiences across channels. So, how do you ensure that your rebranding efforts actually resonate with potential visitors? Which platforms drive meaningful engagement with your new brand identity? And how can you measure whether your rebrand is actually working? Today's guest has navigated these challenges with remarkable success. Cristal Rodriguez, Marketing Director at Tempe Tourism Office, has spearheaded a transformative rebranding initiative that's setting new benchmarks for engagement and campaign performance. With over 16 years of marketing leadership experience across diverse industries, Cristal brings a wealth of experience in storytelling, digital strategy, and community building. Her innovative approach has not only elevated Tempe's brand presence, but has created a blueprint for how destinations can leverage social media as the catalyst for successful rebranding. Hey, Cristal, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Before we dive into that entire rebrand itself, can you briefly describe what prompted you guys to undertake this rebranding initiative?
Yeah, so it really came from, a place of just wanting to keep up with the city itself. So Tempe Tourism's organization had not had a rebrand in the last 13 years. And in those 13 years, we noticed, obviously the city is moving and grooving and growing. Tempe is definitely becoming a epicenter of economic development. We wanted to make sure the tourism messaging aligned with that as well. So the growth of the city, the growth of the industry as well, was also a big factor of why we wanted to rebrand.
That makes a lot of sense. It seems like a great opportunity to rebrand and take advantage of a lot of those changes. Now, when you decided to use social media as the kind of primary vehicle for the rebrand, how did you figure out which platforms would be most effective for introducing Tempe's new identity?
Yeah, for us, it was a lot of research, but because travel and tourism is such a visual industry, now more than ever, people are using platforms like TikTok and Instagram to research travel inspiration, and that has grown so much in the last, call it 5 or 6 years. Um, so, people are turning to social media to now plan their itineraries. And that is such a big movement for us. So we knew that when we did this rebrand, social media was definitely top of mind, right up there with, advertising and media placements. So those two platforms, TikTok and Instagram, are where our majority of our owned and target audiences hang out. So it was only natural to us that those would be the most effective platforms to introduce the new brand identity.
Got it. So when you decided, okay, we're going to focus on TikTok and Instagram, was there anything that you did to kind of prepare those platforms for this rebrand? Any steps that you took?
Yeah. So because, we lean so heavy on those platforms, social was actually the first to roll out. So we had certain assets prepared, ready for the rollout on social media so that when the day actually came to switch everything over, we had everything we needed. So this included designing new reels and TikToks, video templates with the new brand colors and fonts. We did all of that beforehand, of course, designing new highlight covers, designing new graphic templates, and creating our announcement video. So, right before we launched, I'd say a couple days before, all of the staff changed over their LinkedIn profile pictures or their cover photos to reflect the new brand. We changed, our icons in all of our social channels, not thinking, that anyone was really going to notice, and we didn't expect anyone to, but we knew that when, we made that light switch, social was going to go first. So it was important for us to have all of those assets already ready.
Got it. So, all right. So you're focusing on Instagram and TikTok, but we're also making sure that our employees have updated cover photos and information on LinkedIn, new social icons on other platforms. A lot of destinations, I think, would struggle trying to be consistent across all these different platforms. Even with Instagram Reels and TikToks, there's some variations and differences, I think, in how we need to prepare and tailor and caption this content. How did your team kind of approach this consistency challenge during the rebrand?
Yeah, for us, it was really just getting ahead of social design early. It was pretty seamless transition to go from our old branding to our new branding. So just making sure that everything was designed previously. As I mentioned, social was the first to go live. So really just, getting our hands dirty with the assets that were created, figuring out what we love to see, what we didn't. Oh, the logo looks really great with this color, or, it really pops if you use this font here. So it was really, the preparation of designing these assets first. Where I feel like most of our team was really intricate in helping design and kind of put together the vision for this, because we knew that once we switched over and that first social reel went out, it was important to maintain consistency after that.
I think what I loved the most about what you just said was it sounded very collaborative. It sounded like it was a team effort from top to bottom, which is fantastic. A lot of brands aren't doing it that way, and they should. As we're thinking back to that initial period of rollout to social, primarily Instagram and TikTok, were there any particular campaigns or posts that kind of stood out in your recollection that they really performed really well during that time?
You know, I uh, I don't think that there was one specific piece of content that performed exceptionally well during the rebrand, specifically because the rebrand was basically like a switch, immediately going from old to new. Um, our romantic Valentine's Day restaurants did exceptionally well, and that was one of the bigger pieces that launched after, the new stuff. That generated over 375,000 impressions, 36,000 interactions and engagements. And I think what made it do so well and it made it so effective was the fact that it reflected our new branding. So not only the more obvious things like the font, the colors, and all of that stuff, but it was very much a POV type of content. So putting the viewer in the videographer's shoes with the videographer experiencing it as they would, as the visitor would. The filming style is a little bit more elevated, but it's still approachable. And it feels like it's your favorite local creator creating and showing you these things that are in front of them. So the restaurant roundups also do really well for us. These feature a new and elevated dining experience here in the city. And it really reflects the direction of our city and where we're going and exactly why we were prompted to rebrand in the first place.
I love that story. I know you were saying, there wasn't one that did particularly well, but you were really talking about in reflecting there is how important it is to have alignment between your brand's style and approach, but also, what your target audience is really particularly interested in. In this case, we're talking to people who want to see what it's like to visit Tempe and do some of the wonderful things there. Folks, we're talking with Cristal Rodriguez about the challenges and opportunities present during a rebrand. I've got several more questions you aren't going to want to miss. But first, let's make sure you're freeing up enough time and bandwidth to focus your efforts where they're most valuable.
When I take a look at the biggest core benefit for Agora Pulse, I have to look at two sides of the equation. I have to look at what it does for us as far as managing our community and all of the conversation management tools, which I appreciate so much. But from a far more pragmatic point of view, it saves us money. It saves us a lot of money because of the productivity features that are built in with how it manages those conversations. We don't waste time. We're efficient.
Agora Pulse allows me to get through all my messages and my replies really quickly. That's probably the number one reason for me wanting to use the tool. It saves so much time.
A big draw for me with Agora Pulse was the ability to manage my YouTube comments. That is a huge feature for me, and here's why. Because up until then, I basically would have to go into my social media manager system to do everything there, and then I'd have to log out, go back into YouTube, and do the same thing there. Now, when you are managing multiple clients, this becomes a huge waste of time, right? And what we want to do is streamline that efficiency. So we can log into one website now. We can manage all of our major social profiles there, and we're able to serve our clients with more clarity and purpose.
They worked with us, they helped train us on how to get everything up and going, and we were able to cancel out all the other tools that we didn't need anymore. So it saved us a lot of time and a lot of headache for my team members, as they're, now they only have one tool that they can maximize their clients in.
Cristal, let's step back for a second because I want to make sure everybody listening kind of understands where you're coming from. Could you take just a moment to share what your role is and what your organization actually does for the community?
Yeah, absolutely. So my role here as director of marketing for Tempe Tourism is really to oversee all of the outward facing material that leaves our office and into the hands of our target audience. So our big mission here is to attract visitors from outside of Arizona into Tempe. I think a lot of DMOs may get caught up in intra-city competition, whereas, we're not really focused on that. I think any visitors into Arizona is a win for all of us. And so with Tempe specifically, just really showcasing the differences that and different experiences that people can have, right? When you fly into the greater Phoenix area, you're, just 10 minutes away from Tempe, you're going to have a different experience, a different vibe, a different feeling when you get here than when you were to go to, say, Scottsdale or Phoenix. And I think, all of us here in the greater Phoenix area have been done such a good job of marketing and kind of labeling our cities and what we're good at. And so we work at our strengths, right? Tempe is great for hidden gems. We are, the epicenter of rooftops, so to speak. We have a huge rooftop renaissance that's going on in our city right now. Where, the highest, best rooftops are here in Tempe. Whether it be to grab a drink, poolside, or whatever, get the scenery, or take in the scenery, I should say. That's best done here in Tempe. We obviously have Tempe Town Lake, one of, the only water features here in Phoenix, where people can, paddle boat, kayak, take in the sunset. So we definitely play to our strengths here in Tempe. Our target audience, like I said, is obviously anyone outside of Arizona. We're looking for those people in Chicago. We're reminding those people, in Nevada and in Portland, in LA and San Francisco, why their travel to Arizona should be important. And when they're here, why a stop in Tempe is important.
Love it. You guys serve a really valuable purpose. And for those listening, if you're in a similar role with a similar organization somewhere else in the country, this is a valuable episode for sure. And we've also talked to folks from Hocking Hills in Ohio and the Poconos in Pennsylvania. I'll link to those shows down below so that you can kind of further your journey and make sure you're getting the kind of ideas and input you need. But let's get back to rebranding because I think a lot of the folks listening who may have gone through this may have felt a lot of resistance internally or externally. I'm wondering how you might have used social media to address some of the concerns that might have come up about the rebrand.
This rebrand was such a big overhaul, and I've mentioned how collaborative the entire office was in making this a success. We always joke in the office that it was our internal therapy session for a year and a half, right? Almost 2 years. Um, but a part of that journey was a social listening, heavy on research, but a part of that was social listening perspective, and the feedback we were getting from our audience already with our current brand, right? Before we made the launch over. Um, we really were very well received once we rebranded. Tempe is growing and transforming into a new destination. I think our audience was excited to see that. Um, this brand reflects the positive changes to the destination, right? The vibe, the feeling you get when you get here. Um, I feel like, the colors are elevated. The way we speak about the city is elevated. Our website is launching soon. That whole, overtaking and the copy that we write, the way we're talking about these destinations in terms of, our local destinations, our restaurants, our must see places, the way we're communicating that to the audience is completely different than what it was, 2 years ago, during this process. So, what we've seen so far is, great feedback. Everyone has been very, very kind in terms of the look and feel. We got a lot of like, "Oh my god, it's about time," or "This is great," or, "Now I'm interested," or "Now I'm watching." So it's all been good, and we're very lucky for that.
That sounds amazing. What a fun experience. You talked about how you had a short video that announced the rebrand. I don't know if there was a lot of other content that you put out specifically about the rebrand, or if from that point it was mostly just regular content that was rebranded. I don't know. Did you think through how much to talk about the rebrand itself, how to balance that against the normal stuff that you were needing to put out?
When we when we did this, obviously this is the most important thing for our office, right? In a very long time. And we were very excited about it. But did Joe from Chicago care about that? We really had to dig deep and kind of tone it back a little. So we did the rebrand video, I'm sorry, the rebrand reel. Just kind of really short and sweet, like here's our new look, here's what you can expect. A lot of the social strategies and all of the good things were staying the same. It's going to look and feel a little bit different. Um, but as we kind of went along the journey and as we're kind of, putting out new ads and new looks and new feels, we kept getting the same questions from the stakeholders. Like, how much how long did this take? Who was involved in it? What did this look like? We just kept getting a lot of questions. So just recently at our annual meeting, we produced a video with a local production company here called Real Bros. And they kind of took us through and just got, short snippets of the journey of the rebrand process. So, they caught a couple of scenes where, the whole group was going through word pairings, color palettes, just, bits and pieces. And eventually, we did some side interviews. Eventually, this huge 8-minute video came together. And while we were listening and kind of watching it, it was very emotional for all of us to see. And we kind of thought, are we too close to this? Should we show this? We questioned whether or not we should show it at the annual luncheon because we thought, God, it's basically 8 minutes of, how we did this rebrand and how many people really care about that. I think they care about the end result. And so, quarter flip, we decided to show it. And actually it has been of one of our most performing videos, both on YouTube and, just people in the industry that have heard about it, that email us like, hey, can I get a copy of that? Can I get a link to that? I want to show my team or people that were in the audience. Hey, I was there. I really want to watch that video again. I want to show this person. So we were really surprised at how much traction the rebrand video got. But it is on our YouTube. And yeah, if you have a spare 8 minutes, we take you from start to finish, and, it was a really cool project to put together.
I love that so much. We'll dig that up and we'll link to it in the show notes below because we had a similar experience at Agorapulse. Before the pandemic, we used to have company-wide annual retreats in the north of France, which is as amazing as it sounds.
Yeah.
Obviously, the pandemic kind of killed all that. But at the last retreat, we spent a lot of time and effort filming everything that was going on at the retreat. Get lots of B-rolls, interviews, drone shots, the whole works, and that compiled into like a 5 to 8 minute video, just similar to yours. And I remember a lot
Yeah.
of people thinking, it's just us. Who cares, really? Right? But
Right.
no, people loved it. We loved it. We loved seeing ourselves and our friends and the meetings and the experiences that we had because it was, like any retreat, it's a mix of fun and work. So there's meetings to talk about branding and positioning alongside archery and line dancing contests out in the yard. So it was weird. but people loved it. And I think that's important, particularly when it comes to social media. People want to see behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, we like I said, we're very, very excited that people got as excited as we did. I know the first round with the staff when we saw the finished video was a little emotional, and we all kind of just looked at each other and were like, "Are we getting emotional about this? This is so weird." It was unexpected, but we couldn't be more proud of what came together and what came out of it because I think the video really did take us through again, like from start to finish, but it really did capture the emotion of this rebrand, and that's what we were aiming for. So very, very proud of that one for sure.
I think for all of you listening, it will also be very inspiring if this is something that you have on your roadmap to go through in the next 6 to 12 months. I'm wondering, Crystal, one of the questions I always have to ask folks in your seat is how they're currently measuring social media, how do they know whether or not it's impacting their business? Because that's a real challenge, I think, for a lot of hospitality. But I'm also wondering how that relates to your branding efforts. If you were paying attention to social media results as they happened.
Yeah. So, social media, especially from the account of a destination marketing organization, has the huge potential to positively impact businesses throughout the entire destination, right? So, while we can measure, and the team does measure KPIs such as saves, shares, um, you know, likes on certain pieces of content, the stronger indication is actually a visit. And we've been able to measure in a huge way the impact of social media has been through efforts and hearing from real people and businesses in the community. So we've had hotels come to tell us the restaurants have been booked out because one of our videos went viral. We've had local vendor market organizers, contact us and let us know they received an uptick in attendees after we posted about their event. So, well, it's not the most straightforward and cut and dry way to measure business impact, it for us, it is the most real and meaningful way.
That makes a lot of sense. My last question for you, Chris, I'm just wondering, are there any tools or resources that have been valuable to you throughout this process that might help some other hospitality marketers going through something similar?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think a good project management system was crucial to us in this because it was such a collaborative effort. Because, marketing did not operate this rebrand in a silo, right? We touched all departments. It was a constant, meeting of the minds to say, like, here's where we're at, here's where we're going, speak now, forever hold your peace type of thing. We use Asana. That was such a big part in gathering information and timelines and deadlines throughout all of the departments here at Tempe Tourism. At any given moment, anyone from the team can, hop into the Asana page in the rebrand folder and check to see where we're at. Likewise, from my seat, I was able instead of, you know, Teamsing or emailing or asking a million questions. It was easy for me at any given time to go into Asana and pop into the project and see, okay, this is the last thing that happened. Here's where we're at. Great. So Asana was pretty big for us. Also, our branding agency at Excel was a big proponent of Miro and Miro boards. And so our entire rebrand process in terms of design happened in Miro. So all of our team meetings, we would all log in and kind of get into a Miro board and, go around. We were able to give real live edits as they were happening. You'll notice that our word mark and our logo has the iconic Tempe Bridge. That wasn't always the case. And so in earlier Miro boards and earlier iterations of the logo, we were able to, go in and say, while it was being presented, like, oh, this part looks weird, or was that water right there, or what is this piece? Um, and so it was a really cool tool to use. So I think great project management system, and then again from the design aspect, Miro was great to use as well.
That's so cool. Terrific advice. We use Asana nonstop at Agorapulse. I have become an Asana convert. I wasn't a fan at first, but now I love it,
Same.
particularly with these podcasts. Fortunately, once I get done recording any particular episode, I get to hand it all off to the team for editing and distribution
There you
promotion. So
go.
that's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Crystal, you've been absolutely amazing. This has been such a really fascinating interview. I know people are going to have additional questions for you. Maybe they want to reach out and just connect. Where should they go?
You can always head to TempeTourism.com. our About Us page. You can find me there, and my email's in there. Also, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always, always, always willing to talk about this rebrand and answer any questions. So happy to help if I can.
Fabulous. Thank you, Crystal. Thank all of you for listening. That's all the time we've got for today, friends. As always, we'll have all of Crystal's links, everything we talked about in the show notes below. And let me know what you think, what you'd like me to cover in a future episode. Until next time. And that's a wrap for this episode of Social Pulse Podcast, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by AgoraPulse, your social media success partner, helping you simplify your daily tasks and improve your ROI. You can learn more and grab a trial at agorapulse.com. If you found today's conversation valuable, please hit subscribe on your favorite podcast player, and we'd be so grateful if you'd leave us a review. For more great content and to join our Social Pulse community, head over to facebook.com/Social Pulse Community. Until next time, remember, social media simplified, impact amplified.